Welcome to the Find Your Voice, Change Your Life podcast with psychologist Dr. Doreen Downing. Listen in as Doreen interviews people who felt they didn't have a voice or who suffered extreme speaking anxiety. You'll hear stories about how they struggled to speak up, what they did to find their authentic voice, and the confidence they now feel to speak up and make an impact. If you want to get started right away to find your voice, download Doreen's free 7-step guide to fearless speaking at doreen7steps.com. And now, here is Doreen.
Hi, this is Dr. Doreen Downing, psychologist and host of the Find Your Voice, Change Your Life podcast. And I get to interview people who have had some kind of struggle somewhere along their lifespan to speaking up, a struggle with being who they truly are, whether it was sometime early in life, sometimes it's about a family situation, a trauma, a school, being bullied, and other times it's just being trapped in certain kind of environments like a corporation, which it sounds like we might hear about today from our guest. Let me tell you about her, Debbie Hoffman. And Debbie, I know Debbie very well. I've done some programs with her and first found her on one of her podcasts that she was interviewed on a podcast. And I went, oh, she knows what she's doing about follow-up. And so I've taken some programs with her and she's wonderful. She's inspiring and she is gifted in all the ways in which you need to know about following up. Let me say a few more things about her. She's heart-centered sales and follow-up expert, speaker, and founder of Power Up Your Follow-Up. And she works with relationship-driven entrepreneurs, coaches, and network marketers who are letting potential clients and income slip through the cracks because they don't have a reliable follow-up system in place. And her proven step-by-step formula supports them to have more ideal clients saying yes to working with them. And this is the part, I think, where we're going to hear about today. After 20 years of working on Wall Street as a managing director with over 25 billion in sales, Debbie took her organizational skills and an extraordinary ability to connect with people and created multiple six-figure businesses. And in addition, Debbie had tremendous success as a network marketer, having built an international team of several thousand consultants. Debbie's mission is to support entrepreneurs to share their gifts and get their message out in a big way so they can create the impact they're here to make. Oh, Debbie, I'm so glad to put the platform out and have you step in today. Welcome.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm honored to be here, Doreen.
Yes. And as you know, the podcast is Find Your Voice, Change Your Life. And I know before we get to the part about where you found it, I'd like to hear a little bit about your history. You know, we were talking and you said, well, there wasn't a trauma in your background. And so that there was something else along the way. But just tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I worked on Wall Street for 20 years. As you mentioned, I was super successful there and was really, I was comfortable, talking with potential clients or with clients and doing speaking engagements. That was fine and easy for me. And then once I retired, I joined a network marketing company, a health and wellness company. And at the beginning, we would do presentations to groups of people. And then at conferences, we would, some of us would speak on stage. And of course, at the beginning, when I wasn't used to being on a stage, it was a little nerve-wracking. But over time, it just got more and more comfortable. And I would just do these presentations like I could do them in my sleep. Like it was just so easy to do because I was representing a company's product. And that was the whole thing. It made it easy to represent something other than myself. So when I launched my coaching practice, my coaching business about 10 years ago, I'll never forget the very first speaking engagement I had. It was at a networking event with lovely women. There might have been 25, 30 people there. And it was the first time ever that I was speaking and representing myself. And my knees were literally shaking. I remember this. I had a dear friend there to support me, and I couldn't get my legs to stop shaking. crying. And I was thinking, I hope people aren't seeing this because it was really embarrassing. But I realized, like I was asking myself later, what was going on there? Why was I so nervous? And it was because so much was at stake. I had made this decision to stop doing, well, I didn't stop doing the health and wellness business, but I wasn't going to focus on it. I was going to focus on creating a coaching business to help people with sales and follow-up. And number one, I didn't know early on if I was going to provide value. I didn't really know that people were struggling with this back then. A friend who inspired me to start this business told me this. It's like, okay. So I didn't really, it was like that imposter syndrome thing at the beginning. Like, can I really help people? Can I really support people? Am I really going to make a difference? Are people going to want to pay me, and will they get value from what I offer? So when I was speaking that first time, all these things were going through my head, and it was just so new. And I was just really concerned. And the interesting thing is, there was a woman in the audience, yeah, God has a sense of humor, who was very difficult. Like, it's like that type of speaking engagement that people dread. And it happened the very first time. This just came to me. I totally forgot about it. And this woman was so difficult and so kind of mean and nasty and challenging me on something that I said. And they actually asked her to leave, and they removed her from the membership for this networking event. It was really horrific, but people were so blown away with how I handled it, because I handled it really well. I didn't let it, it flustered me a little bit, to be honest, but I handled it pretty well. And there's a reason for everything. Like, I was really being challenged that first time out. So that's kind of how it started. And obviously over time things have improved. But that was my first experience.
Yes, I'm sure everything has improved, because I've seen you and worked with you and know how eloquent you can be and how supportive you are of us who are out there trying to increase our businesses. So thank you so much. Well, I'd like to, I want to go back to the 20 years in the corporation, because as we were talking earlier, it's not as if you had an early family history where you were told not to speak or that there were challenges there. It seems like the first, like people find themselves in a slot in a corporation. And it sounds like you had a lot of success in that corporation. So just say a little bit more about what it was like being in a corporate environment and having a voice or not having a voice.
Yeah, something just came to me. So I was in, Wall Street it still is a very male dominated industry, but back then there were very, very few women doing what I did. I kind of blazed the trails in the area of the company where I was selling fixed income securities to institutional investors. And so it was me and the guys. So, you can imagine what that was like. And I remember this just came to me when you said that about having a voice in that environment. So I was like the touchy feely, like, let's share our feelings and all that kind of stuff, and coming up with all these crazy ideas. And the guys would roll their eyes, but I just spoke it out, and I spoke what I felt and that I thought we should be doing whenever there were issues within the team, because there was a group of us that were, I worked for 3 different companies. So I'm really sharing the last company right before I retired. I was really highly respected because I was always the top performer in the group. So they had to listen to me. Like, they couldn't just brush me off. But I remember just the rolling of the eyes and people not really wanting to buy into what I was suggesting. But I just kept going. I just did. At the very beginning, when I first started, I was really young. I was 22. And again, I was the only female salesperson. They were all guys. They were much older than me. And I just had an ability to communicate really well with clients and to make them feel heard and cared for. And these guys were coming from the masculine, obviously, and I was coming more for the feminine. So I was like a breath of fresh air to these clients who were all guys as well. Most of them were men. And so I just was being me. Like, I didn't know what I didn't know. Like, I was just kind of like, ignorance is bliss. And I just did my thing. And I became like really successful in a short period of time. And the older guys who've been doing it for years were pretty jealous and envious, but we worked through it. So it was, it took courage and a lot of perseverance and strength and not caring what anybody thought. I just did my thing and I performed. And so they kind of had to just let me do my thing.
Oh, what a great story. And especially since, what you're talking about now, defining yourself as heart-centered. And it sounds like that's what was happening way back then naturally for you.
Exactly, exactly. And from that experience, I, as heart-centered as I was there, it still was pretty salesy and pushy in the entrepreneurial world. And so when I came into the entrepreneurial world, I was doing business the same way I did on Wall Street. There, you could be pushy and salesy and aggressive, and it was part of the jam, like it was part of the deal. Like people, it was understood that that's the way business was done. But when I came into the entrepreneurial world, I was hitting roadblocks left and right and didn't know what was happening because I was coming across too aggressive and pushy, but that's all I knew. So I had to find a new voice, a new way of communicating that came more from the heart. And that's when I went through my whole journey of, trying to figure out why were people literally walking away from me at networking events and not wanting to talk to me. It's because I was too attached to my agenda. I was salesy, I was aggressive, and I just wanted to make a sale. And so my journey over the last 10 years has been like incredible to get to where I am today. And that's what I teach my clients, is to let go of your agenda, as you know, and to come from the heart and come from a place of service. So yeah, my voice has things have really shifted over the years to where I am today. I didn't wake up like this. I wasn't born like this.
Well, in a way, your spirit was there from the very beginning, and all you've done is just given it way more opportunity to come out and shine and to touch others. Well, when you actually left corporation, you said you retired. Was that a choice? Because it seems like you were still so young.
Well, this was 20 years in. I was really young. And people thought I was crazy because I left a very high six-figure income, but I wanted to be a mom. So I chose to leave. They didn't want me to leave. At the beginning, they let me work 4 days a week so I could have Fridays to go on field trips and do things, pick up my son from school. But I just wanted to be a mom. And so I actually volunteered to retire against they were upset that I left, but I just, my priorities changed. My heart wasn't in it anymore.
There you go again. Your heart, your heart said, I want to be a mom. And being a mom is a whole new voice too, isn't it?
Oh yeah, because I'll never forget when I started interacting with the other moms, like they weren't working. And I was like, I don't really fit into this, right? So when at parties, I would be talking to the husbands, I would be talking to all the guys, because that's what I was used to, right? So yeah, this is interesting. I haven't talked about all this in years. So this is fascinating for me to be exploring this with you, because it's reminding me of the various phases of sharing my voice and how it shifted.
Yes. And then you went into the health and wellness. You said networking. I didn't quite know what
It
that.
was a network marketing company,
Uh-huh.
health and wellness company. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And then is that like the multiple level
A
company?
multi-level, yeah, it's direct sales. Yes.
Uh-huh.
So I had these products and I was a distributor and I built a team. That's why I had those several thousand consultants that were working in my team. So yes, it was about selling products and then helping other people to create a business around these products.
Oh, perfect. That sounds like another rendition of learning how to do business in a different sort of way by bringing together. I mean, in a way, you became more of a leader in that realm. It sounds like.
Yes, and that's actually the business I was networking with, that where those people walked away from me because I had these products and they were amazing and they still are amazing. And I was like over the top excited, enthusiastic, and people were repelled by my enthusiasm about it. So I had to
Right.
temper it.
Well, this is really fun to journey back with you and then forward into. So, what was the decision, or how did you make the decision and move into coaching?
So this is a really interesting story. So I was following up with this woman, Tanya Hoffman, from a women's conference. I had a booth, I was a vendor, and she was interested in the products, and I followed up with her for 14 months. I kept following up with her, and she finally became a client. And she said to me, Debbie, you are amazing at follow-up. You need to teach people this. She
Oh,
said, people really struggle with this. And I said, what are you talking about? Like, I had no idea that I was doing anything special. I had no idea that people were struggling with this. She ended up inviting me to an event, and she said, just tell people you're a follow-up coach. And we just played this game. It was a game. And the woman who was running the event said to everybody, invited everybody to make an offer of $97 for something. And I asked Tanya, what should I offer? And she said, offer a 5-week follow-up program. And I said, I don't have a 5-week follow-up program. She said, just offer it. I'm like, okay, like it was just a game. And at the end of the event, 2 people gave me their credit cards. And I'm like, holy crap, what do I do now? And so I'll never forget this. I was driving home and I called my husband. I said, we need to create a follow-up program because I just sold two people just bought it. And then I figured, well, I might as well invite other people. And I raised the price to $197. I had like 24 people in the first program. And I did it again at 22 people and 20 people. Like I just kept doing it. And that's how my business started. I did not wake up one day and say, I'm going to start a coaching business. I'm great at follow-up and sales. I'm going to teach people this. That is not how it happened. I was not looking for this.
oh,
It was
that's
all because of Tanya.
oh, that what a story. Yes, I can relate in a way that this podcast happened somewhat accidentally. I was part of a well, it wasn't a contest, but it was a challenge, 30-day to do video. And somebody said, hey, you interview me, I'll interview you. And then we've got our days, a couple days already checked off for these 30 days we have to do. And I just loved it. I loved interviewing people. And so that's how this started last March.
Wow.
And here we are today with you getting to, journey back and also share with the listeners today, because you've already said so much that I think people are going to go, yeah, that's me, that's me, that's me. So we're getting near the end, and I would like to have you say a little bit more about what you currently do then with follow-up businesses.
Well, I'm a sales and follow coach. It's like follow up is part of the sales process. And I speak a lot. I just did a training yesterday for an incredible organization called the Evolutionary Business Council. I'm asked to speak at a lot of networking events, and I'm constantly being interviewed and on podcasts like this. And so I love to speak. We were just talking earlier before the recording started about how I'm much better at speaking than at writing. So I do video tips every Friday on Follow Up Friday is what I call it. And then we transcribe it into blogs. So I just love to speak. I love to be on stages. I used to do 3-day live events where I would pour into people for 3 days and then invite them into my mastery 6-month coaching program. So I've been speaking for years and I just love it. I, never feel nervous. I just feel really comfortable speaking, and I love to connect with people, and I love to share my story because a lot of people, I went through bankruptcy and foreclosure and lost everything when I retired and thought everything was going to be okay. That's one of the reasons I was able to retire, because we had all this money coming in from this house that did not sell for what it was supposed to sell for. So we went through some very, very, very hard times. And so when I share that story, people always come up to me afterwards when I was speaking in person and say, thank you so much for sharing that story. I'm going through the same thing now, or I did go through it. And it's so inspiring to hear that you were able to recover from that and to create a thriving business. So I just realized how important it is for us to be authentic and vulnerable and share a story that could be embarrassing and humiliating to share, but I took myself out of it. My husband was horrified that I was sharing this at the beginning, but I just said, you need to trust me. People need to hear this. And now I know for certain that it's made such a difference for people to hear this story. And so that's what I'm doing now. I have group programs and private coaching, And I have my networking event that I host every month. So I'm really visible, and I do Facebook Lives and interviews all the time where I'm interviewing others, they're interviewing me. So I'm really out there a lot, and it's just fun, and I love to do it.
And I think one of the things that people can take today is a word you just used a second ago, authentic. And that's what I think we're touched by today with your
Oh,
authenticity and your willingness. You also said vulnerability, your willingness to open up parts of your life and not be ashamed of it and just say, hey, this is truth and I grew. And that's the motivation I think that you provide for others by modeling what it's like to recover from difficult times. And well, let's have you, I know you've just said so much right there, but since we're coming to an end, can you offer one last words of, or word or words of wisdom for people based on what we've talked about today?
well, just about the hardship that whenever we go through anything difficult in our lives, and we all will, we all have, and we all will, it's just part of life, is to always look for the learning and the growth and how you can become a better person because of it. Because that situation that we went through at the time, it's like, why is this happening? And now I look back and I see so many like silver linings and so many lessons and learning that I got from that. And like I said, now I can share that story with people and be an inspiration to other people um, who have lost hope. And so I just want to leave you all with, whenever anything's going on in your life, instead of being a victim and like, oh, why is this happening? Or woe is me? It's like, okay, what's the learning here? Go right to that place, because that will help you get through anything, because you will learn, you will grow. I have a spiritual practice, and they talk about, we all have a spiritual curriculum, and wherever we're at in the moment is exactly where we're supposed to be. And so, okay, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? How can I become a better person from this? If you have that outlook as you go through challenging times, it will help you get through it with more ease and grace.
Beautiful last words, ease and grace. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you. This was so much fun. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Thank you for being with us today for this episode of Find Your Voice, Change Your Life. Each person during interviews shares what has helped them find their voice. You can learn from these guests and find your voice so you can be confident to speak up and speak out. And remember to download Doreen's free 7-step guide to fearless speaking at doreen7steps.com. We hope you enjoyed the show and will return next time. Until then, goodbye for now.